Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and it is enrollment season for the 2023-24 school year. It's hard to wrap my head around that we're already planning ahead for that far ahead. And
We are.
so today on the blog and social media, we've been featuring our updated enrollment guide blog post about KIPP Texas San Antonio. And now we get to have a conversation about KIPP with Alan Smith, who's the regional superintendent for KIPP Texas San Antonio. Welcome, Alan.
Thank you so much. My pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So I remember when we first met, it was right before the pandemic, and you were just getting your feet set, and then boom, like the world changed, right?
Yeah, the world changed a little bit, and we had to look at education a little bit differently, and how we were enrolling students, how we were educating students, how we were working with our teachers and our communities. And a lot has changed over those 2.5 years, but here we are, still standing and doing well.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad you're here. I feel like your presence has brought stability to, for the past few years you've been like you brought leadership and a vision about what KIPP needs to be. How do you take care of all the students, help them prepare for the future? So actually, well, okay, but better to hear it from you than from me. Can you talk about the mission and vision of KIPP Texas Public Schools, maybe for people who've heard of KIPP but don't really know what it's all about?
Yeah, I mean, the real mission and vision, and I'll do it in kind of a just layman's friendly terms, is really to educate all students, regardless of their social economic status, and where they are in life, and making sure that they have the very best opportunities to receive an exceptional education, not only through pre-K through 12th grade, but also through college, which is one of our big successors, our successes in the work that we do, and something that we're very proud of, and fortunately something that we were able to do through the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah. No, I saw so much commitment to taking care of the students, whether it's like through meals or, through having, policies that keep the students and the staff safe. And just yeah, and there's been so much discussion in the country, more awareness about equity. And KIPP has always been really sensitive about that. Um, so yeah, I've seen, and then it's nice to have that the traditions that happened before the pandemic, right? Like the commitment ceremony, that those things can come back, and you can feel safe bringing people back in person to celebrate those things that are part of the values and the culture of KIPP.
Yeah. And one of the things that we maintain even through the pandemic is how are we going to honor our students for their hard work? How are we going to continue with some of the traditions that have been in place for so long, and continue to make strides, even though things as we know them have changed so much. And it is to the credit of our teachers, of our school leaders and our assistant school leaders and all of our support staff, that we've been able to do that. Happy to say that, even before the pandemic, as you know, we had two schools in IR. This time we have now all six schools that are B's, one school that are C. Those two schools that were in the IR both jumped three-letter grades and are now B's. And so it's a really great testament to the dedication and commitment of those folks working on the ground and doing the work every day.
Yeah, I was really happy to see when the results came out. It was like mid-August, the new grades came out, and I thought, wow, this is great improvement. And I guess for anyone listening, but not watching, if you go to txschools.gov,
Mhm.
that's where you can look up, like you can search for, KIPP Texas, or search for particular KIPP campuses, and those letter grade ratings will show up. But also we link to those school report cards in the enrollment guide blog post. And that's what's on top of the blog today at shchartermoms.com. But if you go to SHRmoms and search for KIPP, that's one of the top posts that'll pop up. So I just want to give families, like, always encourage people to be aware of those tools and know how to use them, because it can be a real eye opener. For families, like, they may not realize that their neighborhood public school may not be treating students equitably, may not be providing opportunities for all the students in their area. And that's what KIPP does, is regardless of where your background is, KIPP will make a promise to, elevate that student and get them as far as they can go.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been, it's been a lot of hard work. We've seen a lot of changes, obviously, in the landscape of education and just how parents are thinking about educating their students, what their needs are, and how we are truly going to meet those. And I'm so glad that we were not static and thinking that education had to remain the same as it was before the pandemic. Now that we are, not necessarily out of it, but on a completely different learning curve from where we started. It's truly remarkable to understand how parents are reaching out and saying what they need and advocating for their students. This is something that unfortunately came out through the pandemic, but I wish it would have just come out. And I'm so happy that now it has, because it is our job now, to really listen to the parents, to really find out what the needs are of the students and make sure that behind every name is a face, and truly make sure that those students' needs are being met both academically and social emotionally.
Yeah, yeah. Well, actually, that's a really interesting topic you brought up. But like, what kinds of questions are you hearing from parents? Is it sometimes about school safety, or is it more like kind of like curriculum questions, or hey, I think my kid got behind with remote learning. How can we get them caught up? Like, so what kinds of questions are you hearing from parents and caregivers?
Yeah, thank you. It runs the gamut. I mean, everything from, just like you said, my I don't feel like my student has been really excelling in school, or necessarily focused on that because of maybe electronic learning, or through technology. It's the social emotional needs that are really struggling. They're struggling with, and how do we help them, understand what they've been through in the last 2.5 years. It's the changes in the economy, and just the way folks do business, where we have to help parents kind of navigate that. And it's just, and it's around, just needs being different. I think we've all learned a lot, and we've all experienced a lot. And what we have to do now is step back and really assess how we are going to shift in education to continue to provide an exceptional learning experience for our students, but also make sure that we are meeting all of the needs of our students regardless. And that is something that has, I think, helped our educators understand exactly what it is to be well-rounded, exactly what it is to educate the whole student, and to put emphasis on other parts that many people were screaming about before the pandemic but never got a whole lot of attention. They're getting that attention now, and I'm really thankful for that, because it's going to ultimately help our students and our families.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what I'm hearing you say is that at KIPP y'all are aware that the students they're not just little identical products that walk in the door, right? They come with what they're experiencing in their environment outside of school. So whether that's economic stress in the family, whether it's hunger, whether it's like having not the right conditions to succeed at distance learning, like so whatever those conditions they're experiencing outside the classroom, they bring that with them into
Yeah.
the classroom, and that means having educators who are responsive to that, and then having administration support the educators so that their social emotional wellness is also in good shape.
Yeah, there are two things that I did through the pandemic to really help myself become an education leader for this time. And we think about how we were going to get through it and all the things that we were going through. One, I enrolled in a certification program at Cornell around getting my social emotional counseling certification. And two, I was fortunate to get into Leadership San Antonio. And both of those programs have taught me a great deal about what parents need, even if those things are not necessarily being said out loud, but really listening, between the lines. And then thinking about Leadership San Antonio, where we had an experience to work with HEB, and understand where so many parents are coming through, especially that are economically disadvantaged, and how they have to make ends meet, for a month is no easy task. And so we are thinking about the Maslow hierarchy of needs, what you need to survive, and how you need that, and then how it weighs on families, how it weighs on students. We have to be cognizant of that and understand that, while we want these students to come in every day and be on point and be engaged and be ready to learn, there are so many more facets that we have to explore to get them to that point, that I don't know we put a lot of emphasis on it. And now we are putting a lot more emphasis on it, and I think it's really starting to pay off.
Yeah, well, you know what? You're setting a great example as a leader, and like, so I'm going to highlight that, for all our listeners, like, so anyone who's in a position of, be able to affect policy, affect situations, like, educate ourselves about, how different groups who are affected differently by the economy, how what are they experiencing? Don't just assume that everyone is experiencing the pandemic the same way that my family is or my neighbor's family. And go out there and form, be in fellowship with other leaders who are trying to improve things and sharing ideas and making those connections because the pandemic kind of made everybody hole up in our houses with our cameras and
Right.
which we're doing right now. But but
Right.
if we're deliberate about connecting and communicating and trying to problem solve together, then we really can, fight back against these problems. And then organizations like KIPP can be part of the solution.
Yeah, Inga, I truly believe, unfortunately, with this pandemic, we had to experience a lot of trauma. But one of the positive things that I think is going to come out of this, is truly how we look at things differently. And it's definitely shaped, or reshaped my world as an educator, and truly understanding what is important, how we get there together, and that everybody, whether it's the student and the parent, or the caretakers, or the teacher, or the school leaders, or the support staff, we all have, to deal with this thing called life. And if we don't realize, what each other is going through on a day-to-day basis, then I think we can miss part of what education is all about, which is not just about the A's, and B's, and the X's and O's, but it's truly how we get along together, how we view equity, how we view human life, how we view, people's well-being, and how we make sure that we show up, even with hard stuff going on each and every day, as our best selves. And when we don't, how do we lean and support, those who are not?
Yeah, yeah, no, that's wow, yeah, no, that's really well said. And well, and the thing is, by focusing on people's well-being and taking care of, really listening, paying attention to the problems that don't seem directly related to academics,
Hmm.
then the results come through in the academics, right? That
Right.
the measures like the school report cards show how much growth there is because
Right.
the wrong way to deal with the pandemic is to just assign more homework or
Yeah.
shout at kids and tell them they have to work harder. That's the
Right.
wrong way. The right way is to say, let's talk about how you're feeling. Let's check in. Let's have a circle. Let's talk to a counselor. Let's talk about your future and find some motivation. What your goals are. But don't yell at them and don't pretend that the problems outside the classroom don't exist.
Yeah, no, we can't do that. I mean, and I hope a lot of people see that. I hope a lot of people, as far as parents and, those that are working closely with education, to understand that this is so much more, and it's so much about life, and it's so much about how we, help each other and connect with each other, and make each other better. But we do it in a way that's empathetic, and not punitive. And I think that is, KIPP has definitely shifted. We are not lowering our standards of high expectations. But what we are doing is understanding that people are in very different places, and we have to respect them for those places that they are in, and we have to help them. And if we are not helping each other, then I think we're missing some things that really could come out of this pandemic to help bring this country and education together.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in the past year, one of the things that I learned more about was KIPP Forward, which is how KIPP supports students after they graduate high school and making sure that they get the support they need to graduate from college. And
Yeah.
that was it was just really beautiful to learn about that and how it's not limiting of saying like, oh, success is a 4-year college degree. There's lots of ways
Yeah.
to succeed, but it's just providing that support and that encouragement to like to stay on the path.
Yeah, we changed the name. It was KIPP through college, and we changed it to KIPP Forward because we understand that there are different paths, right? We understand that there's college, 4-year universities. There's a 2-year colleges. There are trade schools. There's military. There's workforce. There are just different paths that our young people can explore. What our job is not to dictate to them what we think is right for them, but to set them up with the success that they can choose any one of those paths that they want to. And that means, preparing them for whether they go off to a 4-year college or university, or whether they choose to work, go straight to the workforce. You're going to be prepared to succeed. And as we know now, there are just a lot of shifts in higher education, and the way that students and people look at their lives and their the ways that they go about navigating what they want to do and where they want to be. And we are putting a real emphasis on helping them move forward, and move forward with all the tools that they can be, to be successful. And I think that that's really important, because as we know, I'm a little older, right? And the ways that I learned are not necessarily the ways that these students navigate the world, and we have to understand and we have to respect that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and, yeah, I have well, your kids are a little older than mine. I have, like, a middle schooler and a high schooler right now, and so I'm trying to figure out, how to introduce them to college, and,
Mhm.
so it helps me appreciate, like, the fact that, there's staff, at every KIPP high school, who are spending time talking to kids and, helping to expand their horizons, right? So
Yeah.
so my husband and I both have college degrees, but,
Mhm.
there are KIPP students who nobody in their family has gone to college, so they
That's right.
don't have somebody to say, hey, and
Mhm.
not just like the schools that have big football teams, but also like there's like small liberal arts colleges, maybe on the
Sure.
East Coast or in the Northwest, who have a great track record of providing that supportive environment for first gen students. But it takes that connection of like, a counselor who cares and say, I know you want to study this. Here's the school. There's already Kipsters there who can welcome you and show you the ropes. It's that it personalizes it for those students.
Yeah, and it's beautiful, as a parent with, for students that have chosen different paths. One has a master's, one has their own trucking company, one is in college at George Mason as we speak, the other just finished cosmetology school. All of them are successful, all of them are happy, and we help them, just like we're doing each and every KIPP student, understand what it is that their journey is all about. And I think that that is so important, for me to relate on a personal level to parents and say, look, there are many different ways to go about life, and I am not going to prescribe one way for you. What I'm going to help you do, though, is make sure that you're prepared, your students are prepared, and we can have the conversations that are going to best suit your students' needs. And that I think is really something that, a lot of parents appreciate, especially during this time, because as we know, during the pandemic, a lot of older students had to step back, help their family out, maybe take on a job and do other things, and put some of those educational needs on a back burner. And our job is to help them say, well, look, it's not an either or, it's a both and. And let's navigate those things that you're afraid of or that you don't know about, so that you can make an informed choice. And we will be able to help you every step of the way by providing those tools, resources, and those people that have walked, in your shoes before.
Yeah, yeah, and another thing I learned about in the past year was more about the partnership with Special Olympics and making sure that the athletics and the physical education courses are inclusive,
Yeah,
and that's close to my heart because I have a child on the autism spectrum,
yeah,
and it's not just how it's that I want him to be included, but I want his classmates to get used to the
right,
idea of that there's all kinds of people in the world, and we can all learn to get along,
right.
and to not be judgmental about when people act differently or have different sets of abilities, that we all have something to contribute.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing, and I was extremely proud and excited when we were able to create this partnership. And I was even more proud when they said it is not just for students that may have some form of disability or whatever. It is for all students, so that they can learn exactly what you said is how to get along, how students navigate this world, how differences need to be appreciated. And now going into our second year of this is huge, because this is part of what I said earlier. If we can learn to accept each other and where we are, and truly help each other do our very best, regardless of what the situation is, then we're going to create a better world, a better place for our students to live in. And that to me is really the whole goal. How do we set our students up for success? To get along with each other, to understand differences, to learn about a lot of different things and explore a lot of different things, and truly make the most of being in this world and understanding that it's not just black and white.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you talked about like, the importance of communicating like to students and then the parents and caregivers that, KIPP provides these resources, provides this level of support. So I feel like that's part of what SH Month does is right. Like we update the enrollment guide, we have, the guest blog posts and, but I know there's some like, kind of like practical things, like there's some exciting things happening for KIPP. Like, so can you talk about the KIPP Callaghan campus, the new
Yeah,
construction?
so excited about that. We are looking to expand, but we are looking to expand in a very intentional way, not just growth for growth's sake, but how can we continue to serve the San Antonio community well? And so we're moving to the Callahan campus. Construction is underway. We hope to grow our footprint with our community, and expand the students that we serve. And just, as a start of this, we started to get a lot more students. We started to get different students, and I'm so excited about this. We got a lot of Afghan students, and we got over 40 different families that we are able to serve now, that are in that community because it's close to the medical center, that truly are saying, you embrace us and you help us be, find a space that's brave and belonging and allowing us to be ourselves. And that is what we're looking for when we expand into this Callahan community. And so we'll be opening there with a primary and a middle, and then the high school. The primary will be the new school. The middle and high will be taken from Podair. And Somos, they'll be in a new location, and then we'll start our primary school next year. And so excited to continue to grow and reach more families. And we have some challenges. I would be forthright in saying that. Where we want to make good friends with the community that we're going in, and we're starting to have meetings and starting to answer questions. But our goal is to continue to serve and provide a great quality education and experience for our students, and also being great friends to the community that we're in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the medical center area is, I mean, yeah, there are so many newcomers to San Antonio in that area, and so many languages spoken. And I know from visiting like the pre-K for SA campus in that area, there's students from all different parts of the world, and I think it's a challenge for the food service to
Right.
to meet all the dietary requirements. But I think that it makes me proud about San Antonio because I feel like San Antonio is a very compassionate and very welcoming city, and I'm proud that KIPP is part of welcoming these newcomers to San Antonio.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a good problem to have. So, how do we figure out the different languages? How do we figure out the different dietary needs, the different religious needs, and all of those things that come with it? That is actually a good problem to have. It forces us to grow. It forces us to look at things differently and to be inclusive in other ways. And that's something that we have to do in education if we're going to be able to serve every student well. And so, we've embraced it. And so far, so good. We're looking to continue to grow and expand, and hopefully provide to more families, our Afghan families, our existing families, and other families that may be looking at this podcast, and saying that KIPP is a great place to get an education that serves every student well, with the best intentions and the best goals in mind.
Yeah, yeah, and, and I mean, KIPP has, like, it's always been part of the culture to try to be, welcoming and try to include as many families, like, having transportation and, kind of focusing on the area kind of in and around Route 410, so that it's serving the needs of families in the older neighborhoods,
Mhm.
um, you know, that, um, it's part of the urban core and part of keeping San Antonio a vibrant city so that even in the central part of San Antonio,
Mhm.
there are great schools for families to choose.
Yeah, yeah. There are, and I appreciate being in such a diverse community that really looks at education and everyone that is in the community, and providing those services. Again, Leadership San Antonio has taught me so much about how proud San Antonio is, and how welcoming San Antonio is, and it's truly an honor to serve in a city that welcomes that diversity, welcomes the differences, and then truly tries to make the best situation for everybody to be able to be successful. That's regardless of its living, our education, or anything else that the community provides. I think that San Antonio is just well positioned to continue to be a leader in many ways in this country.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm wondering, can you think of, maybe over the past year, any like little anecdote or story that you feel like kind of demonstrates KIPP culture? I know we've talked a lot about things like the KIPP forward, helping students plan, inclusion,
Yeah.
about like welcoming people, but sometimes like those stories just kind of capture the essence.
Yeah, there are several stories, and I think about a story that we have around an alumni who went off, started at KIPP, graduated, went off to college, came back, and is now teaching, and started teaching during the pandemic, and how hard it was for them to adapt to this new way of teaching, but how important it was for them not to give up on the students because of the opportunities that KIPP provided him, and he wanted to provide those same opportunities to these students. And there are stories like that. There's stories that come from parents who are extremely grateful for the help. And what I want to remind them of is, listen, you're not we're not helping you. You are helping us. We are fortunate to be able to serve your student. And don't be grateful for the things that we're doing. We're grateful because you trust us enough to educate your student, and just really talking to parents and really connecting with them on just an emotional level. I just have so many stories of parents just now wanting to reach out and just share, which is really important. And normally you may talk to parents about something that is either good happening with their student, or maybe not so well going on with their student. And now parents are just reaching out and sharing, just sharing life things. Those are the things that actually connect us, and they're woven in the fabric of what makes us great. And they are getting more involved with the education. I've talked to parents who were never involved, but they've learned since the pandemic that they have to be involved, and understand what their student needs, and be able to advocate for that. And so now they're developing their voice. All of those kind of stories and so many more are important, because what we are now seeing is where I truly think education has needed to be many years ago, where parents are truly partners in this work. They're advocating for their students, students are advocating for themselves. We're addressing some of those things that we now are seeing are so important to the X's and O's of education. And we're moving forward in a way that we are being so transparent, that the partnership is really being organic, and not forced, and that's what I love about it. And so, just thinking about those 2.5 years and how we move forward, I've just am so happy to develop the relationships that we have now, with our families.
Yeah, and, it's really beautiful to hear about the positive change because, like you said, everyone experienced trauma to varying degrees because of the pandemic. But maybe it is, hopefully, it is shifting education into something what it's meant to be, where it
Yeah,
is that kind of partnership with parents and,
yeah,
where they feel like they can bring their concerns, they can be part of a family with the school. And I really, I'm so thankful how you appreciate that KIPP feels gratitude towards the parents, not just that the parents should feel
yeah.
grateful to the school, but really appreciating that the parents are putting their trust in having their children enroll at KIPP.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're running short on time. I would be remiss in saying that, what happened at Uvalde affected all of us, impacted all, especially in this age of education where trust that they will send their students to school and they will get an education and then come back home. Definitely stand with our educators in Uvalde and our community members, and want folks to know that we are working hard to do everything that we can do to keep them safe, both mentally, emotionally, and physically, and taking all those things, very, very seriously as we unfortunately navigate through some of these just horrible incidents that we hear about in our nation. And it's going to continue to be something we work with our community on, and I welcome the input from families and community members how we continue to do that better, because I truly believe, and you always hear me say this, that all of us together are smarter than any one of us, and if we just come together, we'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's so well put, and so such an important thing to remember. Yeah, working together, we can make things better, and we can build up the trust so that parents feel safe bringing their kids to school, knowing that you all are following best practices and listening and being compassionate. Having the social again, it's like if you do things the right way, it comes through in the results. So if you're taking care of the social emotional well-being of the students, it comes through in the academic results, and it also comes through in a safer campus because it's a community and everybody knows each other. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Absolutely. And
there's so much. Okay. Yeah.
no, 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 go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I wanna make sure that we include the contact info and things like that, but I don't wanna if you've got another story to share, please go ahead.
No, that's fine. You're fine.
Okay, okay, good. Okay. There's so much to talk about KIPP, so, we'll look forward to having you and your team members, back on Charter Moms Chats, but I wanna be sure that families are aware that, about the open enrollment period and how important that is, so, anyway, kipptexas.org is /apply is where they can find the application, and, this is a good time to do research because the open enrollment period starts on October 1st, right? And then, the lottery will be on
Yeah.
March 6th. So that's what you want to get the applications in before that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of parents have made choices to homeschool and other educational opportunities, especially coming from the pandemic. I would say to parents is not only looking at applying, but coming to a campus. We do have a lot of things in place, but we would be happy to schedule something with them because we understand how important this choice is. And so definitely there, and we'll be there to take any questions or to meet parents that have questions.
Yeah, that's so important. KIPP has a beautiful culture, but it really helps to see it to believe it. So whether it's yeah, an information night, an open house, or KIPP will be a part of our school discovery day event, so families can come and talk to KIPP folks at those events. So I'm excited for the families who get to discover how many great schools there are in San Antonio, and KIPP is a really important part of that ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, and thank you so much for what you do, because you really forming families of things that are important in education, and it's so important to our community if we're going to continue to thrive. So thank you so much.
I really appreciate that, Alan. All right. Well, Alan Smith, thank you so much for joining me on Charter Moms Chats to talk about KIPP Texas San Antonio Public Schools. Take care.
All right, take care. Bye bye.